So this right here is a polycarbonate unibody MacBook from mid-2010. No, not the MacBook Pro or the MacBook Air, just the plain old MacBook that Apple sold between 2006 and 2012, and then again from 2015 to 2019 because they just love to get creative with new product names. But this is not any regular Apple laptop because it has this suspicious looking USB cable coming out of it that goes to this big old slab on top of the lid. This is the Lingraphica All-Talk, a touchscreen MacBook mod that I didn't even know existed until recently, but I happened to find this one on eBay and just had to buy it, so well, here we are. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So if you're even a little bit familiar with Macintosh modifications, you probably know about the Axiotron Modbook, which is a heavily modified MacBook that's had a touchscreen installed in place of the original LCD. I would say that it's easily the most famous out of these touchscreen Mac mods. I mean, heck, even Steve Wozniak himself was involved in the company at one point, and it's shown up in a few videos here on YouTube over the years. But what I have to show you today is a little more similar to that touchscreen iMac G3 prototype that we explored a while back on this channel, in that it's a little more unknown due to it having a very specific use case. This computer was designed to help people with aphasia and other communication disorders, as it's a speech generation device. And that's what this company Lingraphica specializes in. Now they're still around today and they sell similar products just based around newer hardware. So they've got Android tablets now that run their software, and they also have a few apps for iOS. But back years ago, they resorted to modifying Apple laptops with a touchscreen because the software they included on here, you can use it with a trackpad or a mouse, but it's definitely made for touchscreen use. It makes it much easier for somebody to navigate around in it. And that's actually why you have this bar here. As the sticker says, this was not a carrying handle. It was meant to support the screen from falling all the way back as you're touching it. And with this thing having a resistive touchscreen, you do have to put a bit of pressure on it for it to actually recognize your touch. So this, although it looks kind of goofy, it is a pretty nice inclusion. But luckily, it was removable too if you didn't really care to use it. Now this was far from the first Apple computer that Lingraphica modified. If we take a look at this 2005 snapshot of their website from the Wayback Machine, we can see that back around that time they sold what looks like an iBook G3 Snow with a touchscreen. And there's even this Reddit post from 2019 showing off a Lingraphica branded PowerBook 180. From what I can tell, it didn't have a touchscreen, which isn't surprising, but it did run a much older version of Lingraphica's software and even had stickers placed over certain keys, just like we have on this model, which are meant to denote shortcuts for the software. Now, regarding pricing, I wasn't able to come up with an exact figure for this particular unit because even to this day, none of that is posted publicly by the company. But I did come across a 1995 article from Palo Alto Weekly, which gives a price of $6,450 for a Lingraphica device at that time. I also found a 2015 article from njbiz.com, which says the devices cost some $7,500. By this point, however, Lingraphica's devices were covered by most American medical insurance plans, which is really great for people who really need one of these things, because back years ago, that was not the case. In that 1995 article that I mentioned, the author says that at that point, these things were not covered by insurance, so you had to pay out of pocket for them, meaning that you were going to shell out over $6,000, which, you know, most people can't afford that. And, you know, if somebody really needed one of these things that they could really benefit from it back then, that was the biggest hurdle in getting one. But if you ended up with one of these things back in 2011, this is what it would have arrived in. You would have gotten it in this nice Lingraphica branded carrying case that also included the charger and a few pieces of reading material. So we'll take a brief look at that. So here's all the pamphlets. We've got a questions, comments, feedback card, just a phone number to call also for tech support. You've got the warranty right here. You have a privacy notice because they would be handling your medical information, so they have to provide this. And you have the instruction manual here, which is really useful. You know, I've been using this thing off camera to get familiar with it, and this has been nice to refer back to, you know, it tells you how to use the software and how to do everything with it. And we also, of course, have the charger right here. It's just your standard Apple charger, but they have put a sticker over it. They are a big fan of stickers, by the way. I mean, you already saw the two that we have on the top here, but there's also on the inside right over the MacBook text, they've just put all talk. And on certain models, that will actually say Lingraphica. You see in the manual here, the photo they've got, it says Lingraphica right there. And on that PowerBook from that Reddit post that I mentioned, it also just has a Lingraphica sticker over the, PowerBook branding. Also, the trackpad here has what looks like a sticker anyways over it that just, makes it contrast a little bit with the rest of the system so it stands out more. But yeah, that's a little backstory for you. Let's go ahead and get this thing booted up and we'll take a look at the software and see what it can do. Alright, so here is the main interface for the Lingraphica software that we've got on this thing. And just a side note, if you were wondering, the Apple logo glow does shine through the Lingraphica logo on the back, so that's a pretty nice touch. Now, this system still runs macOS 10, but it just automatically logs into this user account and starts this software in full screen. You're not really meant to get out of this, except for a couple of exceptions, which we'll talk about in a moment. But you are able to press Command Tab here and switch to Finder, and you see there's the regular OS 10 menu bar, and we can go up here and just go to About This Mac, and I'll show you we are running 10.6.4. The specs of this thing, we have a 2.4 gigahertz Core 2 Duo and 2 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM. Now, because you're not meant to really get out of the Lingraphica software, they do have parental controls running on this user account, which prevents you from running most regular macOS 10 applications. So even opening up System Profiler here, we don't have permission to do that. We would have to get administrator permission. So you could say allow once, but it would come up with a login prompt here. Now, there obviously is an admin account on here, but it has the name Lingraphica. And that combined with the fact that there's remote access software on here, I think that the way this would have worked is if you had a problem with this computer, you would have to call technical support or have your doctor call technical support and have them remote into the system to fix the problem. I don't think you would have known what the admin password was. Now, obviously, I was able just to bypass that. I was able to boot in a single user mode. I actually reset the password on that account and also made an account for myself that's also an admin. So, we are able to just get past all these restrictions if we want to, which we will do later on in the video, but I do want to take a look at the software briefly on here first to show you how it would work. Now, the interface is split up into a few different sections. So at the top, you've got your menu bar, you have your toolbar, your picture gallery, and your workspace. And there's a couple different ways you can use this software. One of the ways is just to go through the picture gallery here and find the phrase or the word that you want to say. So just for example, let's say that I want to go into food here. Now, all of these on screen right now, when you tap on one of these options, it will speak to you, but it also will give you the option to go into a folder of sorts, and that's indicated by that little gray box behind the main photo. If I were to tap on food here, it'll speak the word food to you, and then you'll get these two options up here. So the green arrow will go into the folder, the black plus button will add it down here to your workspace. So I'm going to hit the green button, and that'll open up the food folder. And you see we have a bunch of, different categories in here: meals, fruit, vegetables, dessert. And you will eventually, if I go into vegetables here, and we'll go into that item here, and you see now most of these except for potato over there are just items. So if I were to tap on carrot here, it's just going to speak carrot, but then it will also give me that plus option to add it down here to the workspace. And that's how you make phrases. And you see up here on the toolbar, you've got I want auto-populated up here. So that's for if you wanted to say I want green beans, you would just tap on I up here, and it adds it down there. You can tap on want, and then you tap on green beans, and then you'll hit that plus button there. Now, obviously, if somebody was, standing near you and saw you do all of that, and because it speaks everything back to you the moment that you tap on it, they'll be able to know what you want. But you can, now that you've added everything down here to the workspace, you can tap on this speak button and have it say that phrase back. So there it is. Now, if you use this phrase a lot, you can actually save it by tapping on this icon right here, and that will, I believe, just add it to this current picture gallery that we're in down here at the bottom. So now you've got a phrase that you can just tap that. And it looks like the touchscreen actually didn't register that time. This thing can be a little bit wonky. See, that wasn't even hard enough to press. There we go. So it comes up. and it will say the phrase, and there you go. And then you can add it again back down here if you want to add more onto it. So yeah, that's one of the ways that you can make phrases with this thing. It's also worth noting that you are able to, if you were to double click or double tap, I've noticed that double clicking is far more efficient with this. But if you have like a folder here you want to get into, you don't want to have it speak the word potato, you can double click and it'll just go into that folder. And you see that the items on the toolbar up here have changed. Now we have I want to eat, and this changes depending on what folder that you're in the picture gallery here. And all this is customizable, by the way, the layout of everything, what items you have shown up here. You can even record your own voice and, you know, have the computer speak that audio file back to you if you want. Now, another way you can make phrases is by using this search option down here. And if you were able to use the keyboard, you could just type out whatever you want. So let's say maybe where, if I can spell right, where is the bathroom? So you can type that out and then you can hit select. It'll auto add all that stuff down here and then you can have it speak it.
Is the bathroom.
And then again, if this was a phrase that you use often, you could save it. You could also just hit on this minus button to clear everything out of there. And yeah, I mean, that's how, you know, that's another way you can make phrases out of this thing. Now, this software does have two different modes. You've got independent and assisted, and we're actually in the independent mode right now, but Lingraphica recommends new users to start out in the assisted mode, which really the only difference between the two is that assisted does not have the workspace down there. So the only way you can make phrases is by touching on items in the picture gallery. Also in here under settings, we can change the voice to a male voice. You can change icon and text size. You can get rid of text underneath the icons if you just want to have the pictures and nothing else. You do have a couple features you can turn on or off. One of those is one-click navigation. This will get rid of the menu that will show up above, like, you know, if you're going into one of these folders, I'll just show you here. If I were to touch on, you know, places now, it will just speak places to you and then go into the folder. It won't give you the option to go into it or add, you know, it to your workspace down here if we had that enabled. A couple other notable things in here. No icon sound will get rid of the computer speaking back to you when you like tap on food, for example, and when it says food before going into the folder, you can turn that off. You can turn off the click sound that you've been hearing. We also have exercise settings. These are there are a couple exercises on here that you can do. I'll show you that in a minute. And then we have like the main preferences panel here, which just gives you, you know, full control over just a whole bunch of stuff in this application. They have a Spanish language version as well. You can switch to that in here. You can reset it. Calling. Now, this utilizes Skype to place voice and video calls, and this is like one of the ways you're allowed to get out of this application. Now, you're supposed to place calls and everything from within the Lingraphica software, and that's what this calling menu is for. So you can get access to your contact list here. This person didn't have any contacts, but except for Lingraphica support, obviously. And yeah, whenever you click on something or tap on something that has text, it will read it back to you, aside from like the menu bar up here. That's typically, you know, how it is throughout this entire program. So we can add a contact down here. We could type in a Skype name or a phone number, give them an icon, add text to it. So yeah, that's your contact list. You can also get a phone dialer here, just if you wanted to call a traditional landline or a cell phone or whatever. And you have some settings as well. You can have the system automatically answer incoming calls, which is nice. And yeah, so you'd have to sign into a Skype account. You'd have to set one of those up. I assume that would have been done for you by your doctor, or probably not your doctor, but like Lingraphica technical support. Maybe they would. And I think one of the reasons why they don't have the pricing information public is because, with this being like a medical device, it is going to be tailored to the patient, right? So it's not going to be the exact same experience necessarily for everybody, and everybody's going to require different needs. So if somebody wanted calling, Lingraphica is probably going to set that all up for you before you even get the device, at least I would think. So yeah, you're supposed to place calls from within the software, but Skype is running in the background, so I could Alt-Tab here and get access to Skype that way, but you're not really supposed to do that. One more thing, those exercises I mentioned, those are under activities here. If we hop in here and go to therapy exercises, exercises. A lot of these are memory exercises, and you got like some math stuff here, matching opposites, completing a phrase. So we'll just do what is it? Why not? So we'll just tap on that. So let's do what is it phrase 1. So we'll tap that. And of course, it's going to read the name of it back to you. And then when it gets into here, it will read this entire thing to you.
It in the workspace. Sleep. On it. Hamburger. Bed.
And so what we're supposed to do is choose the right option, which is in this case bed. So we're going to tap on that.
Bed.
And you get that little ding telling you you were correct. And then it reads the entire phrase back to you. But yeah, that is the Lingraphica software and how you were supposed to use this system. But of course, with this being an MJD video, I do like to, mess around with this stuff, tinker with it a little bit, and try and do, some dumb stuff. In this case, running Halo on this thing, that's kind of the rule. You know how we have the Half-Life rule for Windows systems on this channel? Well, I think we have the Halo rule now for Mac systems, so we are going to try to run that old copy of Halo I have. We'll see how this system handles it, especially with a touchscreen. That'll be super funny. And also to show you how I actually got the touchscreen to work in the first place, because when I got this thing, I'm just going to do a Command Q here to quit out of the software, and we'll log out of the client user account here. And I'm going to log into my account that I created. I actually went into this expecting the touchscreen not to work at all because the eBay seller had mentioned that it was something he wasn't able to get working. So I thought I was going to have to do a physical hardware repair of some kind, and I was expecting this video to take way longer than it actually ended up taking because turns out all it needed was a driver. And what was even better is the driver was already on the system. If we go in here to the applications folder, I'll just open this up in Finder, and we scroll down. There was this folder on here called TouchBase New. You also had TouchBase 4.1.1, but there's nothing in here. But this TouchBase New folder had a setup file. So all I had to do was install this and then run through the calibration tool over here. And, well, you've seen throughout this video, the touchscreen works just fine. So, yeah, I am going to upload this to my Internet Archive page because I didn't see this on the Internet Archive already. So if anybody else happens to have one of these and can't get the touchscreen to work, you might just need to get a driver. So hopefully that'll come in handy for somebody. But, yeah, this driver also comes with this console tool here. So we'll open this up, and this just kind of gives you an overview of, the current status of the touchscreen. So we can go down here, this is the controller. We see that it's enabled. We can show a test screen here, which is actually just like a drawing program. So, I can go through here and draw, and, it keeps track of mouse inputs down there. So, yeah, there we go. We could save that if we want to. We're just going to close out of it. I do want to show you what other applications we have on here, because there's actually a few things. So first off, for some reason, we have the Lingraphica logo just in here. It's just a JPEG. I'm assuming maybe there's an application or something that points to it, and they just have it in here. We have a datefix.sh file. This is it's a shell script to fix the date for something. I don't know what, but it's there. We've got GP4. This is actually, it's a program called GatherPlace, which is a distance learning and training software. My guess is this was probably used to teach people how to use this thing and, be taught by somebody at Lingraphica. You also have, interestingly, Imagine Boot X2, but it doesn't even support this version of Mac OS X. We also have Log Me In. So there's, how I was saying before, how if you had any problems, they would have to connect to this. So you've got Log Me In for that. You've got a test drive of Microsoft Office 2004, interestingly enough. So that somehow got on here. You got Stuff at Expander. You have Spotless, which is also not compatible with this version of OS X. And down here you have Vine, which is a VNC server, which, makes sense for, again, remote access. So, yeah. Oh, and one more thing I just realized I never mentioned. It is pretty obvious, but you are supposed to plug in the USB cable coming out of the touchscreen into a USB port on the MacBook. Interestingly, though, they do have it labeled sort of. They've got a sticker here on the USB cable and the same color sticker on this one USB port. But, it doesn't matter which one it's plugged into. We could just plug it into the other one here, and of course it'll work just fine. And speaking of USB, yeah, that was a great segue, wasn't it? We're going to plug plug in this USB thumb drive that has the universal binary of the Mac OS X version of Halo. And since we ran through this installation process in the Samsung UMPC Hackintosh video, I'm just going to skip through the installation here, and we'll just jump to when I actually, assuming I can get Halo installed, and we'll see how it handles being played with a touchscreen. Alright, so we're going to run it at the default settings that it's got here. Already a lovely sign. So the videos are not really playing here, but yeah, the menu came up. So let's go in here to multiplayer. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's definitely... Well, here's the thing. The touchscreen is calibrated for, you know, the resolution that we were running at, and this just bumped it down to like 640 by 480, so now it's going to be like way off. Of course, we can change the resolution from within the settings here. I think this is the native resolution, 1280 by 800. And okay, our controls are still kind of wonky. I wanted to Command Tab, not Command Q. But let me go into here, and let's go to displays, and yeah, 1280 by 800, that is the resolution. So we are running at the same resolution. So let's see here. Oh yeah, that's yeah, the thing is, you know, it's not like you can really move and like you're moving your mouse around, right? Like you're just looking, is when you touch the screen, that just registers as a click. And then you can, like, you know, as you're clicking the screen, you can drag it, you can drag around to, you know, move around. But yeah, so it's basically going to be like unplayable with the touchscreen. But, you know, we can totally try to, yeah, there is no way at all. Even if we were to get this like perfectly calibrated and everything. Now I've made the mouse sensitivity so low that this is kind of annoying to use as well. So of course, like I'm already, yeah, battery's already depleted, so there you go. But I mean, Halo runs, and this is at pretty like high settings, by the way. I mean, if we go in here to change settings, which I guess we have to click on that. Okay, video settings. Our refresh rate is 0 Hertz apparently, but we got shadows on, decals on, particles high, texture quality high, and I just went with the default settings in the you know, launcher, which wasn't like the highest settings. I guess we could try to set this to the highest possible settings and just see how this system handles it. You know, again, this is a Core 2 Duo with 2 gigs of RAM, so this does exceed the system requirements for Halo. So we'll just do like advanced pixel shaders. We'll turn this like way up, all this stuff here, extreme, high. Oh yeah, I mean, that's totally fine. Totally playable, yeah. So even on like the highest possible settings, this thing still handles it just fine. So, yeah. I mean, you theoretically could play this game with the touchscreen. It's just going to be very unbearable because all you're going to be doing is just firing your weapon constantly and just like aimlessly wandering around and, you know, not really being able to tell where you want to aim your weapon at. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up this video. That is the Lingraphica All Talk, a really, really useful piece of accessibility tech. And, you know, that's something that I don't feel like gets talked about enough. I mean, despite how important that accessibility is in technology, you know, devices like this can really help people. And I would love to do more videos about this stuff. I mean, I just don't have any other like accessibility devices like this that I can think of. But I would love to get my hands on the, you know, Gemini iBook, for example, from Assistive Technologies. That was another really cool Mac mod that was made for accessibility purposes. And yeah, I mean, I just think this stuff is neat. I think it's really cool to see it in action and see, you know, how somebody would use this thing. And it's great that this company is still around and is still offering, you know, solutions for people with aphasia and other, you know, communication disorders that, you know, devices like this can benefit. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, if you want to see more like it, be sure to give it a thumbs up, get subscribed, maybe consider becoming a patron or a channel member to get early access to these videos before anybody else. But either way, I just want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.